live.
Hey, Alec.
How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Doing great.
Welcome. Thank you for coming, hanging out with us for a little bit.
Yeah, Zoom, the new age. We're ready to see you in person, Alec.
Tomorrow, actually.
Yeah.
I know. Part of me is like, we should have just done this in person tomorrow, but this is fun too. You can screen share now, which is
we can use all the fun new technologies.
Yes, exactly. So, let's just get started.
Yeah.
Cool.
Everybody out there, we're live with Alec Gerbec from Umpqua, and we're going to talk about hooks. And for you fly tires out there, this is going to be some juicy stuff. I'm kind of excited about this. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Hooks are something that we chat about and geek out on all the time at the shop. So we're excited to have Alec himself here to share with us a little bit. So Alec, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what's your background?
Great. Yeah. So again, my name's Alec Gerbec. I am the Southern Rockies rep for Umpqua Feather Merchants. But prior to this, I was a fly fishing guide for about 14 years. I started my career down in Durango, Colorado, guiding on the San Juan, which I'm sure you've all heard about, and then eventually found my way up to Katmai National Park and Preserve, guiding for Enchanted Lake Lodge for the trophy rainbows up there. I was up there for about 8 years, and then the last 4 years of my guiding, I was in the Seychelles. I was the head guide for Alphonse Fishing Company. Guiding eventually brought me across the world, and then eventually I just had to plant some roots somewhere, so I wasn't living out of a suitcase, and found myself in Denver, Colorado, so I'm pretty stoked about it.
Nice. Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about what you do at Umpqua right now.
Great. So I manage all the fly shops in Colorado, Utah, New Mexico. It's just over 100, and I'm an in-house rep, so I just focus on Umpqua and all the products that we have, and act as essentially an extension of our customer service team. So I really go in depth with all of our different products, and try to dig in as much as possible with things like this. So it's been really interesting kind of coming to the other side of the industry. As a guide, you have a lot of ideas of how things work and how things are made, and then once you join the production side of things, it really opens your eyes. As a fly tyer, I've been tying for roughly 20 years. Hooks have always been a big passion of mine, wanting a certain shape or certain strength. It started actually on the San Juan, landing big fish on size 24 is how the heck does that hook hold up? And then when I got to the Seychelles, we're catching 100-pound fish on hooks too. So anyway, that's kind of currently what I do, and what's got my passion rolling with hooks in general. So.
Well, and you're quite the fly tyer. I know a lot of people probably have patterns that are tied by you, some Umpqua signature patterns. What are some flies that you've come up with that people might know?
Good question. I kind of left that out. I'm a signature tyer for Umpqua. My very first fly with Umpqua was probably my most famous, and that is the El Flexo crab. That was something I arrived to the Seychelles, and on average, they would catch about 10 or 15 Indo-Pacific permit in a 10-month season. And I was seeing permit everywhere, and that wasn't good enough for me. So hit the vise a bunch, and eventually came up with this in cooperation with the guide team too, just testing it out like crazy. And so the El Flexo was my first introduction. I'll just do a quick screen share so you can see this guy. It comes in a couple different colors, but it features this mesh body, so it's got a realistic profile. Lands a little bit softer, and it sinks quite quickly. So that's my first one. The other patterns now that I have with Umpqua are going to be as follows: the resting caddis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that pattern personally.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite kind of more stealthy approach flies. Let me get a good profile one. Let's see. This person's best. So yeah, it's got a realistic profiled wing. It's called a Wally wing. It sits nice and low on the water. Comes in a couple different colors. And yeah, this is kind of the trout side of my passion. I tie it all sorts of stuff. I'm constantly bouncing around. My desk is currently a mess full of saltwater flies and little jig flies and dry flies. So yeah, I'm quite a scatterbrain. And then let's see, one of my last is going to be, a Louisiana Redfish Fly. So I'm constantly playing with all the different, species of the world.
Mm-hmm.
This is the po' boy.
The boy, that's awesome.
Comes in either a 2.0 or 2.0, or a 2. And it's essentially a very quick and easy, gets down dirty fly for those kind of murkier waters in Louisiana for those bull redfish. So yeah, that's kind of my primary lineup. I have some more particular ones like a milkfish fly and things like that, but not as exciting as perhaps the main three that I got there.
That's awesome. Cool. So we know you are retired from Umpqua now. We know you love your hooks and tying. So tell us a little bit now, some down and dirty details about what makes Umpqua hooks different, because we carry a few different brands. I'm sure a lot of other people have a bunch of different brands of hooks on their tying desk, but we all gravitate towards a favorite. And I probably speak for both of us that Umpqua is our favorite hook brand. So what makes the Umpqua hook any different than just your random Amazon brand or something like that?
Great. Yeah. So we carry 3 brands of hooks. Kind of our good, better, best model, good being U series. Our kind of unique or specialty is going to be our X series. And then our top tier is going to be TMCO. And so as far as what makes a hook, the best in the world, first and foremost is the material it's made out of. TMCO hooks are made out of high carbon steel coming out of Japan. This is the best, most pure steel in the world. So right away, as you start getting in those thinner diameter hooks that are going through a number of processes, it's going to really hold up its integrity as opposed to a less pure steel that might have impurities allowing it to bend or break or things like that. So starting with the steel and then moving into kind of the processes of what a hook goes through. Something unique to all companies is how they temper their hooks. So once you shape a hook, into the classic J, that's not all they do. You could just bend it right back. It would never, land a fish. So they have to temper it. So heating it up to a process of like 1400 degrees. And then they cool it very, very quickly within seconds in like a mineral oil. This is going to start hardening it. And then an additional process is they're going to forge it. So think of the classic blacksmith in the movies making a sword. He's pounding it while it's nice and hot. This is now compressing the steel to, further increase its integrity. So those little size 2488s, they've been through a lot to make sure they're nice and strong. And then lastly, not lastly, but one of the more main important things too is just the chemically sharpened process. So they are going to actually use a solution of chemicals to sharpen that to a very, very strong sharp point.
I have no idea.
No, I'm picturing still someone taking a hammer and slamming a size 24 hook, and it's not quite computing.
It's not working.
So let me elaborate there. There's by means in our factory is a guy with a hammer. This is all mechanicalized. Essentially, someone hooks up a big wire to a machine, and then this machine just starts spitting out hooks. So there's very little manual work out there anymore with making a hook.
And here's a question too: when you're making a hook on barbed hooks, how is the barb created?
Yeah, good question. So when they make a hook, they cut just a straight piece, determining the length of actually 2 hooks. So they've got a straight piece, and then they bend both sides. They're going to cut it in half, And now it's going to start going through the process of making an eye. The point, depending on the size of the hook, they'll actually forge the point flat. Let me just share a picture with you. It's not the best quality, but it'll give you an idea. So yeah, they're going to start with that. They're going to then flatten it or forge it, and then they're going to cut it at an angle. And then at some point through this process, they're going to cut that little divot, and through the process of chemically sharpened, it's really going to sharpen it up and make it nice and fine.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You think? I mean, we've both been tying for a long time. I think you longer than me quite a bit, and I literally have never looked into how to make a hook. How sad is that?
That's pretty cool.
But that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. So if you would just elaborate a little bit. So we carry from Umpqua, we carry all of those. We carry the X series, we carry TMCO or TMC, and then also the U series. So between the U series and the TMC or TMCO, we have them on a big wall. What is the big difference between the two? Because I get asked that all the time. And it's easy for me to say quality, but what are some more differences other than just saying quality?
Yeah. So you nailed it on the head, the quality. It's just going to be coming down to the actual steel used. We wanted a more value-priced hook with the exact same shape. So all those U-Series hooks have a direct correlation to a TMCO model. So just as you look at tippet, as you look at waders, as you look at fly rods, we want to have something to offer to customers at different price levels, depending on kind of what they're looking for and where they're at in the industry. So it's still a very good quality hook. They are forged, they are chemically sharpened, just, you know, a less quality steel, if you will, that is really going to kind of dictate where that price lands and why you get 50 instead of 25 in the past.
Cool. But I mean, you can still land huge fish on the U series. It doesn't mean they're going to bend out on you. I have had much more expensive hooks bend out on me on fish and been extremely upset about it. Then, man, I tie on a bunch of U series too, and they're totally fine. So
that's it.
But I've never had a problem with them. So
yeah, I tie a fair amount of my Stillwater stuff on U series hooks, and I mean that's a true test on a hook when you get some of those Stillwater fish up in South Park. And I haven't had an issue with any U-Series hook.
No.
Not one. So.
And that's just it. I mean, we recognized that at first we were like, oh, we'll see how these go. And honestly, the numbers haven't lied. They've been super, super popular. They've been consistent. And so now you've seen recently in the shop some introduction of some competition barbless kind of Euro style hooks. So we're excited to launch, you know, a comparison to the higher tier priced ones in that U series line, because we know the performance of our U series factories hooks, and we're pretty stoked about it. So yeah, so that's kind of U series, and then our X series is we're trying to keep up with the innovation of this sport. It is very quickly evolving, and even more so in the fly tying world. As fly tyers, you guys know this, materials are coming out all the time, ideas, you know, whatever it may be. And this factory we work with, we are able to shoot a concept on paper to them, and they can deliver within 6 to 8 weeks a sample of it in hand to us. So it is amazing to work with them, and we're trying to just fill certain niches in the industry, whether it is a jig saltwater fly or a stillwater fly or whatever it may be, you know, just to accommodate for that. So it's pretty cool to have this very unique family of hooks at a very high quality that, you know, doesn't really match kind of the standard trends of hooks, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've been really popular. I know we got some samples a long time ago of these X series and we're stoked on them, but they look a little different than we're used to. And some people may not have seen the new packaging either. If we get closer to the camera. Oops, I just killed one of our lights, but you see the new packaging is awesome too. This one is our 400 BL. We have a 400 and 450 that are super popular, and then You're holding the 290.
Yeah.
Is also really popular. So will you talk to us about just those couple of different models?
The new hooks look good, by the way. And if you guys out there haven't seen the X series, the new X series hooks, you've got to come in and check them out. They're
awesome.
So yeah, I mean the 400 and 450 specifically. We'll start with that. Many of the employees at Umpqua Feather Merchants have been or are still part of Fly Fishing Team USA. So if you've ever been through the process, it is kind of a nightmare getting to know all the little idiosyncrasies, and hooks is a huge one. So by putting brains together of what they liked, what they didn't like, they started coming up with these designs. And, the 400 is kind of a industry standard, if you will, that straight beak point, really true to size, can hold a very large bead if you need. And then the 450 is kind of that bigger, rounded, large gape with that kind of beak point dropping down. So different style hooks. With that hook, you can tie, more caddisy kind of a merger style jigs or things like that. Whereas the 400 is going to have a more traditional shank length and, tie it most anything you want that you'd rather otherwise tie in a traditional style hook.
Cool. And then tell us a little bit about the 290.
Yes, the 290, our original concept with it is we wanted a stillwater hook, something that was barbless. And when it's barbless, you need a long point to kind of accommodate for staying on, and just kind of an extreme bend. And we'll talk about one other bend here in a minute, but something that's really going to hold the fish once it's hooked. So I will pull up an image. Just one sec. Let me grab one. Okay. So here's the 290. You can see kind of that more extreme bend here. If you look at the flattening here, that's the forging, just FYI. In general, they'll forge kind of from here down to here. So yeah, with that nice, long, strong point, this thing is going to hold up to very big fish. And, also have some really good penetrating power with that nice sharp point. So that being said, though, this hook also has a place in nymphs. This is something I actually tied up just before the meeting so you can see it. I'm really impressed with some of its smaller sizes. It goes down to a size 16. And as you can see, that it's got just a lovely gap, nice long point. So it's going to find its place in a lot of people's nymphs that are kind of looking for that barbless style option.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the hook bend is really interesting on that. And sorry, did you guys start playing around with that with the stubby T?
That was the last one I was going to bring up. And
that one. That was the first one I got to play with on my Vice, anyways.
That one was really unique. When you guys came out with that last year, it was. I mean, you can tie everything on that: hoppers, dry flies, to nymphs, to everything.
You got it. While I'm finding the images, it's just kind of unshared, but I will talk about it. Here we go.
I like the big gap on it too.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my favorite parts.
So,
one thing I look at for hooks in general is just the big gap, especially in the sizes we usually fish here.
Exactly. So this case in point, we designed this hook around the fly. A lot of popularity around smaller size chubby Chernobyls. But the hooks we were using for size 14, size 16 were just virtually no gap. So we came out with the stubby T. The stubby T is designed around this version of a fly, a very small chubby. So it goes down to a size 18. Doesn't mean you can't tie a little blue wing or something with it, but yeah, it was designed for smaller foam flies to have a wider gap. And that really thin wire has a very unique bend to it. We call a V-lock bend. And maybe I can find a better image of it. Sorry, it just to bounce around, but it's very angular. You see that all right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, again, this is going to help kind of reinforce it. You can see how flat it is with that forging. But once a fish is hooked, it just locks them in place. It is a technology this hook factory we're working with presented to us as an idea to kind of add on to this unique hook. And we were like, oh, absolutely. This factory makes a lot of conventional hooks and has played around with, numerous styles. This is a technology that's newer to them and had great success. So we love now incorporating it into this hook and a couple saltwater hooks. We're working on some different stuff. You may see, a new freshwater streamer hook or maybe a jig hook down the road. You never know. So that's kind of the exciting part about the X series is we can keep kind of cranking out these unique designs, and we know they're going to be popular.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that hook. We sold so many when we first brought them in, and a lot of them weren't even people tying foam flies. It's just general patterns, and they really like that V-lock. I think, is that what you said? V-lock?
Yep.
Yeah.
V-lock.
We said the V shape of the hook bend, but I love it. I think it works really well.
And maybe this is an unintended purpose of it, but I really like that V shape for droppers if I'm tying off the back of my hook. They seem to like stay right there. So I don't know if that was intended, but that's.
I don't think it was either. I noticed that right away too. Honestly, John, I was like, "Holy cow, this is like a match made in heaven for a drop." So, kind of it relates to how a fish is going to stay right in that corner too.
Yep, absolutely.
I love it. Well, awesome, man. Thank you for joining us. And anyone looking at this or watching this and interested in any of, especially the X series, I mean, we always have a huge wall of the U series, huge wall of the Tiemco hooks, but we've got all the 400s, 450s, 290s of this new X series in stock in the stubbies. So you can come ask us questions, come look at them. We're getting more in stock all the time. We're really trying hard to, I mean, everyone's had trouble with stock right now with COVID since that's happened, but I feel really, really good about our hook stock right now. So come in, look at them, chat with us. Let us nerd out with you a little bit on them. Give us a break from paperwork and boring stuff.
Yeah.
So.
We'll talk about hooks happily, right?
Oh yeah. Which is part of why we decided to do this video. Kick Dave out. We're the ones that like to do this.
All about
and chat
the
about
hooks.
it.
Yeah. But phenomenal job. You guys are crushing it with these new designs, and we can't wait to see what you guys come out with next.
Awesome. Well, you'll see tomorrow. I've got some stuff coming your way for this fall. And just wanted to say one other thing is, on their hook wall at Covey, you're going to find a hook comparison chart we just made. So if you're a U-Series guy and want to see the relative, the hook to Tiemco, check out that chart or have someone help you out with it. It's pretty intuitive and a great way to kind of tie on these classic hook designs.
Awesome.
Very good point. Yeah, we use that thing all the time. It's helpful. We have some memorized, but not all of them. So it's a super good tool. Awesome. Well, thank you, Alec. And we'll see you here tomorrow.
Sounds good. Guys.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.